The effect of global warming on the planet is so great it will suppress the beginning of the next ice age, a new study has found. Researchers say the relationship between of insolation and CO2 concentration in the atmosphere has been key to the last 8 glacial cycles in Earth's history. Emissions are already sufficient to postpone the ice age for 50,000 years, they said. But rising man-made greenhouse gas emissions since the Industrial Revolution began in the 18th century could mean the balmy period will last for 100,000 years, they wrote in the journal Nature. The findings suggest human influences will make the initiation of the next ice age impossible over a time period comparable to the duration of previous glacial cycles, they wrote. Even without man-made climate change, we would expect the beginning of a new ice age no earlier than in 50,000 years from now, which makes the Holocene as the present geological epoch an unusually long period in between ice ages, explains lead author Andrzej Ganopolski. However, our study also shows that relatively moderate additional anthropogenic CO2 emissions from burning oil, coal, and gas are already sufficient to postpone the next ice age for another 50,000 years. The bottom line is that we are basically skipping a whole glacial cycle, which is unprecedented. It is mind-boggling that humankind is able to interfere with a mechanism that shaped the world as we know it. For the first time, research can explain the onset of the past 8 ice ages by quantifying several key factors that preceded the formation of each glacial cycle. Our results indicate a unique functional relationship between summer insolation and atmospheric CO2 for the beginning of a large-scale ice sheet growth, which does not only explain the past, but also enables us to anticipate future periods when glacial inception might occur again, Ganopolski says. Using an elaborate Earth system model simulating atmosphere, ocean, ice sheets, and global carbon cycle at the same time, the scientists analyzed the effects of further human-made CO2 emissions on the ice volume on the northern hemisphere. Due to the extremely long lifetime of anthropogenic CO2 in the atmosphere, past and future emissions have a significant impact on the timing of the next glacial inception, CO author Ricarda Winkelmann says. Our analysis shows that even small additional carbon emissions will most likely affect the evolution of the northern hemisphere ice sheets over tens of thousands of years, and moderate future anthropogenic CO2 emissions of 1,000 to 1,500 gigatons of carbon are bound to postpone the next ice age by at least 100,000 years. Usually, the beginning of a new ice age is marked by periods of very low solar radiation in the summer, like at current times. However, at present there is no evidence for the beginning of a new ice age. This is the motivation for our study. Unraveling the mystery of the mechanisms driving past glacial cycles also facilitates our ability to predict the next glacial inception, Winkelmann says. Like no other force on the planet, ice ages have shaped the global environment and thereby determined the development of human civilization. For instance, we owe our fertile soil to the last ice age that also carved out today's landscapes, leaving glaciers and rivers behind, forming fjords, moraines and lakes. However, today it is humankind with its emissions from burning fossil fuels that determines the future development of the planet, CO author and PIC director Hans-Joachim Schellnhuber says. This illustrates very clearly that we have long entered a new era, and that in the Anthropocene humanity itself has become a geological force. In fact, an epoch could be ushered in which might be dubbed the deglacial. Last week, another group of scientists said humanity had become a force in shaping the planet's geology and suggested an Anthropocene epoch began in the mid-20th century with factors such as nuclear tests and industrialization.